All right, it's Jason here at Suffer City. We're on to our final, I promise, our final slide. We're talking about our huddles, our coaches huddle. Hey, this is the most effective accountability tool you will have. This is the key to your success throughout the course of your Accelerator-10 program. And so let's talk about what is absolutely necessary in terms of succeeding throughout the course of this program. It's going to come down to execution. Now you see here, right? You see that execution is nothing other than purposeful action, action on purpose. Now we have to distinguish here between action on purpose and just action, because a lot of people, a lot of the times, what are they doing? Hey, going through the motions. They're just being busy. They're just doing one thing, going to the next place. They're trying this plan. They're doing that diet. They're going to this gym. Now they're at that gym. They're just dabbling, right? They're really going through the motions and nothing is really getting done. Nothing has a purpose to it other than just to look busy. And so when we look at execution, the purposeful action, we have to look at what generates that. And if you could see up here, we look at execution equals accountability plus discipline, or discipline plus accountability. Now the discipline is going to fall on you. You have to understand you have to exercise some self-discipline here. And if you're thinking, God, I haven't been able to do that in the past. Well, listen, we're going to help you out with that, because you can learn discipline. You're going to improve your discipline, but you got to have it some of the time at minimum. Realizing, of course, your discipline's a diminishing resource, right? You're going to have less of it at the end of the day than you will at the beginning of the day, and more at the beginning than you will at the end. That's the same thing for this program. Listen, motivation runs high, but it also runs dry. You have to realize that. And when the motivation runs dry, you got to fall back on some self-discipline. Now, this happens in micro doses as well as macro doses. This is why people can go well over the course of 2 or 3 weeks into a 10-week program, but you get to week 4, 5, and 6 and things start to degrade. So our motivation can run dry both at large scale, also down to the micro size, such as, hey, I said I'm going to go to the gym today. Seemed like a good idea when I said it. Now that I got to do it, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do. Or, oh, all of a sudden I'm out of time. Or all of a sudden I got to do this other thing that seems more important now. Listen, motivation runs dry. That's where discipline is going to come into play here. And so discipline is doing the thing when the motivation ain't there. You got to be able to do that to some degree. Now, knowing that our discipline does diminish, that's where your accountability factors come into play. You got to be held accountable by something, someplace, sometime. Now, your goal, of course, that will hold you accountable. You'll realize what you've committed to, and that'll form some pictures in your mind that hopefully will spark either the motivation or just the sheer willpower to do what it is you got to do. But what about accountability? What about your friends, your coaches, this program, and knowing that you to some extent put some skin in the game here, and maybe that's enough to get you to do what it is you got to do. But more importantly, it'll be your coach. And so here's a great way to use your coach, in fact. If that moment comes where the motivations run dry, right? At one point, you made a commitment when the motivation was high, but now it's time to do it. Motivation's dry. What do? Tell your coach. I know that seems like the last thing you want to tell your coach, like, I'm not going to go to this workout. I'm not going to do my mileage, or, I'm going to splurge when I go out to dinner tonight at the restaurant. But that's better than not telling your coach, in fact. I mean, your coach can offer some insight, could high-five you, who knows? But at this point, at least you're exercising truth. You're being honest with yourself. You're being honest with somebody who wants to help you. Using your coach in this way, not just to celebrate victories, but to also express times when things didn't go your way. And having somebody alongside you, a co-driver, so to speak, to help you get out the map, the compass, and find your way, that is going to help you. In fact, that is a great way to perceive this process with your coach in terms of having a huddle, is getting out the map, the compass, kind of finding out where you've been over the past day, the last week, finding out where you want to go, and charting a good course to get there. Because here's the deal. Oftentimes our map, our mental model, or the representation that we've constructed of the world for ourselves, hey, it's not always right. I mean, you can even open up Google Maps and you're going to find a lot of errors. Businesses that aren't open anymore, streets that are named this, but they're now named that. And so it's just common that we're not always going to get it right inside our minds, right? Our mental map will have some errors. So wouldn't it be great to have somebody alongside us who also has a map of the same terrain, right? We're all moving along the same terrain here. Wouldn't it be great to be able to have another map to compare with, to contrast with, or especially somebody who's been down a lot of the roads you're moving down to get to where you're trying to go? So that's what we aim to do in these huddles, is help take your mental representation, what you're experiencing, what it's like for you to get through your day of health and fitness and overall improvement. What's it like for you? And then how can we help you improve that mental representation of that terrain so you can make better choices, get from A to B faster, hey, maybe take shortcuts, and eventually, ideally, get to where you're trying to go. And so that's what these huddles are going to do for you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in up to this point. We covered quite a bit. We went over the additional duties you're going to be ascribing to over the course of the 10 weeks. We went over the metabolic process and the commitments that you got going on. We talked about the mindfulness and the breathing commitments you're going to be cycling throughout the course of the week. We've also talked about what else? Your huddles. All right, and we went in depth in all those. So thanks again for tuning in. Check in with any of your coaches whenever you need. If you got questions about anything I covered here, hey, let's chat about it. Let's talk about it. Otherwise, this is Jason signing out, telling you to go be great. Here we go.